Somewhere in rural Japan, a 93-year-old farmer wakes with the strength and clarity of someone 30 years younger. His blood pressure is perfect. His joints move without pain. His mind is sharp. He's never needed serious medical intervention. This isn't luck or genetics. It's a system, a reproducible, testable system you can implement tomorrow. I'm a doctor who's spent decades studying longevity across the blue zones and Japan's mountain villages, where people routinely live past 100 with strength and dignity intact. And here's what shocked me at a fundamental level. The secret isn't an exotic supplement you have to order online. It's not an extreme exercise routine that takes 3 hours every single day. It's not meditation or special equipment or anything that requires money or privilege or special circumstances you don't have access to. It's breakfast, specifically what this farmer eats every morning. The same meal his ancestors ate for generations. The same meal that's kept his entire family lineage strong and disease-free for decades. His breakfast is a precision instrument. Every single component serves a specific purpose. Every nutrient works in concert with the others to stop aging literally at the cellular level. Most people spend thousands on anti-aging products trying to fight something they believe is unstoppable. They buy creams, they get procedures, they spend money on supplements that promise youth. They're fundamentally wrong about how aging actually works. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you think about nutrition, about aging, about what your body actually needs. You already know something is seriously wrong with how you're eating. You can feel it in your body. You see it in the mirror. You see it in your energy levels. You see it in the way your body moves. And you see it in the statistics: Americans declining younger, developing diseases that should only happen at 70 or 80, now happening at 55 and 60. This farmer represents a completely different way. Not just different, better, measurably better, scientifically better. The kind of health that most people think is impossible after 50. It all starts with what you eat tomorrow morning. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly what changed his life. And more importantly, you'll understand exactly how to change yours. Before we dive deeper, I want to ask you something. If you're watching this, part of you already knows the conventional approach isn't working. Maybe you've tried the diets and supplements. Maybe you've spent money on things that promised results. Here's what I need. If this is resonating, drop a comment. Tell me what brought you here. Are you dealing with declining energy? Watching your body change? Tired of feeling tired? Your comment helps the algorithm, and it helps me know this matters. If you're finding this valuable, hit like. It signals to YouTube that this is worth showing to millions of people accepting decline as inevitable. Now let's get into what actually works. Because understanding why each element of this farmer's breakfast works is the difference between following a diet blindly and understanding the science of longevity. Every single morning, without exception, this farmer begins his day with fermented foods. Not as a side dish, not as something optional or supplementary, as the absolute foundation of everything he eats that day. And this is precisely where modern nutrition completely misses the mark, because we've been taught that breakfast should be about protein or carbohydrates or total calories. But this farmer knows something far deeper, something that the entire supplement industry has financial motivation to keep hidden from you. Your gut isn't just a digestive system. It's your immune system. It's your neurological command center. It's literally the factory where longevity is built or destroyed. And nothing impacts your gut more directly or fundamentally than the microbiome. The trillions of bacteria living inside your body that determine whether you get sick, whether you age slowly or rapidly, whether your body can actually absorb the nutrients it needs to function. Here's what happens in reality. By the time you reach 50 years old, your digestive system has already been under constant assault for decades. The processed foods, the vegetable oils, the refined sugar, the antibiotics embedded in conventional meat, all of it has been systematically killing the beneficial bacteria in your gut. Your microbiome has gone from being incredibly diverse and robust to being a barren wasteland dominated by inflammatory, disease-causing bacteria. And you don't even feel it happening because it's gradual. It's invisible, but it's destroying you at the cellular level. This farmer counteracts this completely every single morning with fermented foods. Specifically, miso, a traditional Japanese soup base, made from fermented soybeans that's been used for longevity for over 2,000 years. But not the commercialized miso you might find in a conventional grocery store. We're talking about naturally fermented miso from small-batch traditional producers who understand that the fermentation process is sacred, that it takes months or years of patient bacterial colonization to create the medicine that sits in that bowl. When he makes his morning miso soup, he dissolves roughly 1 to 2 teaspoons of miso into a warm broth. And here's the crucial part, never boiling hot water, because boiling water would kill the live bacteria that make this food genuinely valuable. The temperature matters. The timing matters. Everything matters. Then he adds natto, fermented soybeans with a distinctive smell that terrifies most Westerners the first time they encounter it. But that smell is actually the smell of billions of beneficial bacteria that have spent days multiplying and thriving inside those beans. Why does this matter at a cellular level? Because fermented foods contain live lactobacillus bacteria, the same bacteria that pharmaceutical companies are trying to sell you in expensive probiotic supplements that often don't work. But the bacteria in fermented miso and natto are exponentially more potent because they've naturally evolved to survive the journey through your stomach acid. They arrive at your intestines alive and ready to work. This farmer also incorporates tempeh into his rotation, another fermented soy product that's been colonized by beneficial molds and bacteria over weeks, and sometimes pickled vegetables fermented in salt for months, creating a living culture of lactobacillus. Comment: microbiome is where it starts, if you understand why most people miss this foundational step. Once the foundation of fermented foods has been properly established in the morning, this farmer adds the next crucial layer to his breakfast: quality protein. But not just any protein. This is exactly where most people in the Western world make a catastrophic mistake that silently accelerates their decline without them even realizing what's happening. Most people eat red meat. They eat chicken. They eat the proteins that modern industrial food systems have optimized entirely for profit, not for human health and longevity. This farmer, he eats small fish and eggs. Let's be extremely clear about what's happening in your body after 50 when you eat the conventional protein sources that most Americans rely on. Red meat contains dangerously high levels of arachidonic acid, a fatty acid that your body uses to manufacture pro-inflammatory molecules. It's not that red meat is inherently evil. Your body actually does need some arachidonic acid for normal function. But when you eat it daily, when it becomes your primary protein source across the week, you're essentially flooding your system with the raw material for inflammation. And inflammation is the literal root cause of every single disease of aging: heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, cancer, arthritis. Everything. Small fish, particularly small varieties like sardines and anchovies, works in a fundamentally different way. Yes, they provide protein that your muscles need for maintenance and function. But they also contain omega-3 fatty acids that actively suppress inflammation in your system. They contain selenium, which protects your cells from oxidative damage at the mitochondrial level. They contain astaxanthin, a red pigment that's one of the most powerful antioxidants known to science. And they contain B vitamins and essential minerals that your aging nervous system desperately needs to maintain cognitive and neurological function. This farmer eats sardines or anchovies several times each week. Small fish that are so densely packed with concentrated nutrients they're basically supplements in their whole food form. He buys them fresh when available, canned in water when necessary. Quality matters enormously. Fish are only as nutritious as the environment they come from. Here's the biological reality. After 50, you begin losing muscle mass at approximately 1% per year, a process called sarcopenia that's the primary driver of functional decline in aging. You become weaker. You become more prone to falls and injuries. You become dependent on other people. You lose the ability to maintain your own independence. This farmer hasn't experienced any of this because he's been feeding his muscles with precisely the right kind of protein at precisely the right times throughout his life. Small fish provide bioavailable amino acids, meaning your body can actually absorb and use them efficiently. They don't trigger the inflammatory cascade that red meat does. Your immune system isn't constantly fighting against the protein you're eating. It has resources to do other things: repair damage, prevent disease, maintain cellular function. Eggs appear in his rotation regularly, usually prepared simply, boiled or soft-cooked to preserve the nutrients. The yolk is where real value lives. Egg yolks contain choline, a nutrient essential for brain function and shown in studies to prevent cognitive decline. Pasture-raised eggs contain 6 times more omega-3 fatty acids than conventional eggs. Type: I'm replacing red meat with fish. If you understand that muscle loss isn't inevitable, it's a choice you can change today. This is the point where most health-conscious people in the Western world think they have it completely figured out, and where they're actually missing something absolutely fundamental. They've been told relentlessly to eat more vegetables. They've been told that raw is always better than cooked, that nutrients are destroyed by heat, that massive salads are the pinnacle of healthy eating. This farmer knows fundamentally better, and his knowledge, backed by cellular biology and nutrient absorption science, demonstrates why the raw vegetable obsession has been keeping millions of people in a state of nutritional deficit without them realizing it. After 50, your stomach produces significantly less hydrochloric acid, the powerful acid that breaks down food and makes nutrients available for absorption. This is a biological fact that gets virtually zero attention in mainstream health discourse. The practical implication is staggering. You physically cannot extract the same nutrients from raw vegetables as you could when you were 30 years old. You can eat an enormous salad at lunch and absorb perhaps 30% of its nutritional value. Take that exact same amount of vegetables and cook them properly, and you'll absorb 70% of the nutrition. You're literally wasting your time and your money if you're banking on raw vegetables as your primary vegetable source after 50. Cooking vegetables, specifically gentle steaming, light boiling, or careful preparation methods, actually breaks down the plant cell walls. This isn't destroying nutrition. It's making nutrition available. The fat-soluble vitamins in vegetables, vitamins A, K, and E, are only absorbed when they're consumed with fat and when the cell walls have been broken down and opened to release their nutrients. Cook a leafy green vegetable. Add a small amount of quality olive oil, and suddenly you've increased the bioavailability of its nutrients exponentially compared to eating it raw. This farmer's breakfast includes cooked vegetables every single morning. Depending on the season, these might be leafy greens like spinach or kale, steamed gently for 3 to 5 minutes until they're tender, but still maintain some structural integrity. They might be root vegetables like carrots or burdock root, sliced thin and boiled for 10 to 15 minutes until they're soft enough to digest easily. They might be cruciferous vegetables like broccoli or cabbage, which require slightly longer cooking but deliver compounds called glucosinolates that have been shown in dozens of research studies to prevent cancer. The key is understanding why these specific vegetables matter at the biological level. Leafy greens provide calcium in a form that's actually absorbable, something that dairy, despite all its marketing, doesn't do nearly as effectively. They provide vitamin K, which is essential for bone health and blood clotting, and which becomes significantly more absorbable when cooked. Root vegetables provide complex carbohydrates and minerals like potassium and manganese that actively support cardiovascular health and metabolic function. Cruciferous vegetables provide those cancer-preventing compounds plus sulfur-containing compounds that support liver detoxification and healing. Seasonality plays a crucial role too. Vegetables in season are grown in appropriate natural conditions, transported shorter distances, and arrive with higher nutrient density than vegetables grown in artificial conditions and shipped across the world. In spring, he eats fresh shoots and green vegetables. In summer, he incorporates more variety. In autumn, he focuses on root vegetables. In winter, he relies on stored roots and pickled vegetables. Comment: cooked vegetables are the answer if you're ready to abandon the raw salad obsession and start eating what actually nourishes your aging body. Now we arrive at a topic where the modern Western world has convinced itself of something that's almost universally wrong. Carbohydrates are killing us, we've been repeatedly told. Sugar is poison. Grains are inflammatory. The solution is a low-carb diet, a ketogenic diet, any diet that minimizes carbohydrates while maximizing fat and protein. This farmer has never heard of any of these dietary trends, and his health at 93 is exponentially better for it. Because the problem isn't carbohydrates themselves. The problem is the wrong kind of carbohydrates prepared and consumed in the wrong way at the wrong times. At 93 years old, this farmer has blood glucose levels that would be considered excellent in a person who is 30 years younger. His blood sugar is stable throughout the day and night. He doesn't experience energy crashes or afternoon fatigue. He doesn't crave sweets or feel dependent on stimulation. He doesn't have insulin resistance or prediabetes despite eating carbohydrates every single morning for his entire life. The difference between him and the millions of people struggling with blood sugar dysregulation isn't that he avoids carbs. It's that he eats the right kind of carbs in the right context with the right other foods. His carbohydrate sources are specific and deliberate. Brown rice, barley, oats, and sometimes sweet potato. Not white rice. Not refined grains. Not wheat bread or processed grain products. These foods are whole grains, meaning the entire seed structure is preserved, including the protective bran and nutritious germ that contain valuable fiber, minerals, and protective phytonutrients. Whole grains have a much lower glycemic index than refined grains, which means they don't cause the blood sugar spikes and subsequent crashes that accelerate aging at the cellular level. Here's the cellular mechanism that's critical to understand. When you eat refined carbohydrates, your blood sugar spikes rapidly and dramatically. Your pancreas responds by flooding your bloodstream with insulin to drive that glucose into your cells. This creates a cascade of metabolic problems. Chronically elevated insulin is one of the primary drivers of inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and aging itself. High blood sugar in the presence of proteins creates advanced glycation end products, AGEs, which are essentially proteins that have been damaged by sugar, creating inflammation and cellular dysfunction that spreads throughout your body. This process literally accelerates everything aging-related. Wrinkles, stiffness, joint pain, cognitive decline, disease progression. Whole grains work differently. Their fiber slows down glucose absorption significantly. The glucose enters your bloodstream slowly and steadily over hours instead of minutes. Your pancreas responds with a modest, appropriate amount of insulin. Your blood sugar stays stable. Your cells get the glucose they need for energy without the inflammatory cascade. The difference between white rice and brown rice in terms of their effect on your aging process is absolutely profound and measurable. Brown rice is brown because it contains the outer layers of the grain that processing removes when creating white rice. Those outer layers contain manganese, magnesium, phosphorus, and vitamin B6. They contain fiber that feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. When you eat brown rice, you're eating a complete food. When you eat white rice, you're eating the caloric equivalent with most of the genuine nutrition removed. Barley brings something different. It contains beta-glucans, a type of soluble fiber that has been studied extensively and shown to improve cholesterol levels, stabilize blood sugar significantly, and feed beneficial gut bacteria. Mixed with rice, it adds nutritional diversity while maintaining the properties that keep blood sugar stable. Oats provide similar benefits with additional compounds supporting brain and cardiovascular health. The portion control is crucial and often misunderstood. This farmer doesn't eat unlimited carbohydrates. His breakfast contains roughly 1/3 to 1/2 cup of cooked grain by volume, sufficient to provide energy for the morning while being balanced with protein, fermented foods, and vegetables in a way that keeps blood sugar perfectly stable throughout the morning. Type: whole grains are part of the system if you understand that real health comes from eating the right foods in the right way. The components of this farmer's breakfast don't work independently. They create a synergistic nutrient profile impossible to achieve through supplementation or any single food. This is why, at 93, he doesn't need supplements. His breakfast consumed consistently delivers every nutrient his aging body requires in forms his body can absorb. From fermented foods, he gets billions of living bacteria restoring microbiome health. He gets vitamin K, produced by beneficial bacteria, essential for bone health and cardiovascular function. B vitamins, particularly B12, crucial because B12 absorption declines with age. Isoflavones from fermented soy, compounds shown to protect against age-related disease. From fish or eggs, he gets selenium supporting thyroid function and protecting cells. Choline supporting brain function and preventing cognitive decline. Astaxanthin and antioxidants protecting against cellular damage. Bioavailable amino acids for muscle repair. Omega-3 fatty acids reducing inflammation. From cooked vegetables, particularly leafy greens, he gets calcium in absorbable form, vitamin K, and phytochemical science is still discovering. Root vegetables provide minerals like potassium supporting cardiovascular health, magnesium essential for hundreds of enzymatic processes. Whole grains provide B vitamins, magnesium, manganese, phosphorus, fiber feeding gut bacteria. Here's the crucial part. When you understand nutrient density of individual foods, supplementation becomes pointless. This farmer gets all calcium from vegetables and fermented foods, all magnesium from grains and vegetables, all iron from fish and vegetables, all zinc from fish and grains. The nutrients work together. A mineral from one food enhances absorption of a mineral from another. A vitamin from fermented foods helps the body utilize a mineral from fish. The system is complete. Compare this to isolated supplementation. You take calcium without vitamin K and magnesium from food. Your body doesn't know how to use it properly. You take vitamin D without minerals to support its function. You spend hundreds monthly on products that are, at best, partially effective because you're treating nutrition as isolated molecules, not as integrated system. Japanese longevity research shows people with high micronutrient status from food sources have dramatically better health outcomes than people with similar levels from supplementation. Nutrition works as a system. Foods contain thousands of compounds we haven't isolated yet, working together in ways we don't fully understand. This farmer's breakfast contains approximately 30 to 40 different micronutrients in bioavailable forms, with natural ratios evolution has optimized. The research needed to develop equivalent supplementation would be impossible. The cost would be astronomical. The effectiveness would be inferior because supplements are isolated molecules, not complex whole food matrix. After 50, nutrient absorption becomes critical for staying healthy or declining. Stomach acid is lower, mineral absorption declines. Intestinal lining may be more permeable. Ability to convert nutrients into active forms declines. This farmer compensates by eating nutrient-dense foods prepared for maximum absorption. Comment: nutrient density over calories. If you're ready to stop counting and start understanding. If you're ready to eat for health instead of marketing promises. Every single morning, without exception, this farmer eats essentially the same meal. Not approximately the same. Not with significant variation. The exact same meal structure with only minor seasonal adjustments. Miso soup with specific vegetables, fish or eggs, whole grains. Every single day. For decades, modern wellness culture tells you this is fundamentally wrong. You need variety, we're told. Eating the same thing gets boring. Variety ensures you're getting different nutrients. Switch things up constantly. Keep your body guessing. This farmer rejects all of this completely. His 93-year-old body moving with strength and vitality while most people his age are sitting in nursing homes is the evidence that the conventional wisdom is wrong. Here's what happens at a cellular level when you eat the same nutrient profile consistently. Your cells begin to adapt. They begin to optimize their processes specifically for that input. Your digestive enzymes attune themselves to processing those specific foods. Your microbiome develops a stable, diverse population of bacteria that know exactly what to expect. Your metabolism develops remarkable efficiency. You enter a state that researchers call metabolic flexibility. Your body becomes incredibly efficient at extracting energy and nutrients from the specific foods you're eating. There's something else equally important that happens: autophagy. This is the cellular cleanup process where your cells remove damaged components and recycle them. Autophagy is one of the primary mechanisms of longevity. It's how your body prevents cancer, prevents Alzheimer's disease, prevents the accumulation of damaged proteins and dysfunctional mitochondria that leads to aging and disease. Autophagy is stimulated by nutrient sensing, your cells detecting that a specific nutrient profile is consistent, that they can trust this pattern, that they can begin the deep cleaning processes that preserve health. When you constantly change your diet, different breakfast yesterday, different breakfast today, your cells are constantly in a state of recalibration. They're trying to figure out what's coming next. They can't fully adapt. They can't fully optimize. They're spending energy trying to process novelty instead of spending energy on repair and maintenance. This is part of why people who obsessively optimize their diets, trying different approaches, constantly switching methods, often feel worse than people who simply eat well and stay consistent. The farmer's consistency is also metabolically intelligent. His body knows exactly what's coming every morning. It begins producing the specific digestive enzymes needed for that specific meal before he even finishes eating. It doesn't waste energy on uncertainty or adaptation. It extracts the nutrition it needs incredibly efficiently. The energy freed up by this metabolic simplicity is diverted to something far more important: cellular repair and maintenance. This is a key part of his longevity. Psychological consistency matters too, though this gets almost no attention in nutritional research or health literature. The farmer isn't spending mental energy every morning deciding what to eat. He's not wondering whether to have the pastry or the eggs, the cereal or the rice. There's no decision fatigue. There's no temptation. There's a simple, established pattern that's become completely automatic. This reduces decision fatigue and chronic stress, which has cascading health benefits because chronic psychological stress destroys health just as directly as poor diet. But here's what's most important from a practical perspective. Consistency is what allows you to actually maintain a healthy diet long-term. Most people approach diet change as a temporary intervention. They commit to eating well for 3 months or 6 months, and then they go back to old patterns because the new pattern never became automatic. The farmer's approach is different. It's not something he's doing. It's something he is. Eating well isn't a project. It's just what he does, the same as breathing. The seasonal variation he maintains is also important to understand. He eats the same meal structure every single day, miso soup with protein and grain, but the vegetables rotate with the seasons. Spring brings young shoots and fresh greens. Summer brings different vegetables. Autumn brings root vegetables. Winter brings stored roots and preserved items. This provides nutritional variety while maintaining overall consistency. Different nutrients from seasonal vegetables, but the same digestive processing, the same nutrient sensing patterns, the same metabolic adaptation. Comment: consistency is my secret weapon. If you understand that the path to health isn't through constant optimization, but through simple, unwavering consistency. What this farmer doesn't eat is almost as important as what he does. What's not in his breakfast reveals something about modern food slowly poisoning us. The foods destroying us aren't primarily absence of something healthy. They're the presence of something toxic. The easiest way improving health isn't always adding broccoli. Sometimes it's stopping eating things actively destroying you. This farmer doesn't eat refined sugar. Not in breakfast. Not typically throughout his day. I'm not talking about restrictive approaches. Refined sugar is, at the metabolic level, a poison. Your body doesn't need it. Every molecule requires your body to manufacture insulin, depletes micronutrient stores processing it, contributes to inflammation and cellular aging. When consuming refined sugar regularly, you run a low-level inflammatory process in your bloodstream constantly. Your immune system responds to high blood sugar as threat. Arteries accumulate damage. Organs age faster. Brain experiences subtle cognitive decline. You don't feel any of it because it's happening slowly, invisibly at cellular level. The farmer avoids this entirely by simply not eating sugary foods. He doesn't eat seed oils. Seed oils, vegetable, canola, sunflower, soybean, are industrial products ubiquitous in modern food systems. Cheap to produce. Long shelf life. Food manufacturers use them extensively. Biologically, they're a disaster. They contain high levels of linoleic acid, a polyunsaturated fat oxidizing easily, creating pro-inflammatory compounds in your body. Consuming seed oils regularly floods your system with oxidized fats your body can't use properly. These oxidized fats become incorporated into cell membranes. They become insulation around nerves. They contribute to inflammation. They accelerate aging. The farmer uses olive oil occasionally, a whole food product without these problems. But he avoids industrial seed oils destroying modern health. Processed foods are completely absent. He doesn't eat packaged snacks, doesn't eat fast food, doesn't eat anything engineered in factories to be maximally appealing to your brain's pleasure centers while being nutritionally incomplete. Foods he eats could theoretically grow from earth or come from an animal. Whole foods in basic forms. This simple distinction, real food versus processed food, is perhaps the single most important dietary choice. Most processed foods are combinations of refined grains, sugar, seed oils, salt, chemical additives preserving shelf life and enhancing flavor. Your body has to spend energy processing these foreign compounds. Every meal of processed food is metabolic burden. Every meal of real food is metabolic gift. This farmer chose the second path for decades. He drinks minimal alcohol. Alcohol is double burden on aging bodies. Metabolically taxing, your liver works hard.
Pro-inflammatory.
Damages mitochondrial function. Accelerates brain aging. Disrupts sleep crucial for cellular repair. The farmer isn't complete abstainer, but alcohol isn't part of regular pattern. Dairy appears minimally. Not because dairy is inherently evil. Conventional dairy in modern systems is pasteurized, homogenized, often from confined animals fed grain instead of grass, often contains antibiotic residues. The farmer gets calcium from vegetables and fermented foods. He avoids inflammatory load modern dairy brings. Here's what's crucial. The farmer didn't get healthy by eating more superfoods or taking supplements. He got healthy by stopping constant consumption of inflammatory foods, destroying his health. His health is as much product of what he doesn't eat as what he does. Modern health culture inverts this. We're constantly told solution is to add something. The reality is often removing something, foods actively harming you. Every single one of these foods is a choice you can make differently. Not through restriction and suffering. Simply through understanding that the farmer proved you don't need any of these. You don't get sicker without them. You actually get stronger. Comment: I'm removing the toxic foods. If you understand that sometimes most powerful change isn't what you add but what you remove. If you're ready to stop eating things slowly killing you. You've examined every component individually. Fermented foods, quality protein, cooked vegetables, whole grains, nutrient density, consistency, absence of inflammatory foods. Each piece has value. But this system's power comes from how these elements interact as integrated whole. Most health approaches fail because they treat nutrition as isolated choices. Eat more protein. Eat more vegetables. Reduce sugar. Take probiotics. Each recommendation exists independently. This farmer's approach isn't a collection of recommendations. It's a system where every element supports and amplifies every other element. The fermented foods work alone by restoring microbiome, but their benefit amplifies exponentially combined with vegetables eaten. Cooked vegetables feed beneficial bacteria colonized from fermented foods. Resistant starch from whole grains provides specific fuel for specific bacteria types. Quality protein provides amino acids bacteria use for cell walls. The fermented foods make all nutrients more absorbable. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything works together. Meal order actually matters. Eating fermented foods first primes the digestive system. It signals your body that beneficial bacteria arrive. Your microbiome recognizes this as positive signal. Your immune system shifts into tolerance rather than alarm. Protein consumed in this primed environment absorbs more completely. Vegetables process more efficiently. Grains consumed last provide stable, long-lasting energy for the rest of the morning. This sequential approach is sophisticated, opposite of how most people eat. They eat randomly throughout the day, combining foods haphazardly. Their digestive system recalibrates constantly, responding to unexpected inputs, working inefficiently. The farmer's approach is methodical. Each element prepares the system for what comes next. The nutrient density of individual components amplifies through combination. A mineral from fish absorbs more effectively with vitamin C from fermented vegetables and vitamin D from sun. A vitamin from vegetables utilizes more effectively in context of minerals from grains. The system is more than sum of parts. It's synergistic. 1 + 1 + 1 equals more than 3. Most importantly, this system addresses root causes of aging comprehensively. Most health interventions are reductive, addressing one problem at a time. Cancer prevention strategy, heart disease strategy, brain health strategy, as though aging is separate diseases fighting independently. This farmer system addresses aging differently. The microbiome work addresses inflammation at root, improving immune function and reducing chronic low-level infection driving aging. Quality protein addresses sarcopenia directly, preserving muscle and bone. Cooked vegetables provide micronutrients every cell needs for optimal function. Whole grains maintain metabolic health and blood sugar stability, preventing metabolic chaos. Absence of inflammatory foods removes constant cellular assault. Consistency allows all elements to integrate and optimize. Combined, these elements aren't preventing one disease. They're maintaining comprehensive metabolic health, preserving muscle and bone, stabilizing blood sugar, reducing systemic inflammation, feeding beneficial bacteria, providing every micronutrient cells need, creating environment where cells repair efficiently and age slowly. This is why supplementation can never replicate this. A supplement might address one variable. A probiotic helps microbiome. Calcium helps bones. Vitamin D helps immune system. All work in isolation, competing for resources. This farmer system works together, amplifying everything. The practical implication is that you can't pick and choose. You can't eat fermented foods while still consuming seed oils and refined sugar and expect transformation. Longevity, this farmer's kind of health, comes from integration of all elements. Comprehensive approach where everything aligns toward keeping cells functional, reducing inflammation, maintaining metabolic health, slowing aging. Most people hack their way toward health. They take supplements,
do extreme diets,
do intense exercise, look for the one intervention changing everything. This farmer proves there is no such thing. Health comes from integration of consistent, fundamental practices, creating environment where your body thrives. These practices aren't complicated, not exotic, not expensive. They're simple, affordable, accessible. The only barrier is understanding and commitment. Understanding real health comes from comprehensive, integrated approaches. Commitment to consistency. Doing these things daily, trusting cumulative effect transforms body and life. The question becomes, are you willing to create similar integration in your own life? Not perfectly, not replicating every detail, but understanding principles and building your own system addressing root causes of aging and disease, maintaining metabolic health, reducing inflammation, preserving strength and function. This farmer proves it's possible. Type, I'm building my system. If you understand longevity isn't about finding perfect diet or supplement, it's about building comprehensive, integrated system of practices working together toward health. You've now walked through the entire system. You understand the individual components and, more importantly, you understand how they work together as an integrated whole. You understand why this 93-year-old farmer possesses the kind of health that most people believe is impossible after 50. You understand that decline isn't inevitable. It's a choice. And now understanding becomes choice. This information doesn't change your life unless you actually do something with it. You can watch this video, feel inspired for a moment, and then go back to your regular patterns tomorrow. That's one choice. Or you can understand that what you've just learned is a map, a specific, practical, evidence-based map toward the kind of health that most people think is impossible. The beautiful thing about what this farmer does is that you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to move to Japan. You don't need to abandon everything you're currently eating. You just need to start integrating these principles. Add fermented foods to your breakfast tomorrow. Just one small change. Then add quality protein. Then adjust how you're eating vegetables. Then look at the grains you're consuming. Then start removing the foods that are actively destroying your health. Each change, individually small and manageable, combines into a comprehensive transformation. Start somewhere. Start anywhere. But start. Because the alternative, continuing with the patterns that are slowly eroding your health, weakening your muscles, accelerating your aging, is not actually a neutral choice. It's a choice toward decline. It's a choice toward disease. It's a choice toward being one of the majority of people over 50 who accept that their bodies are falling apart. This farmer chose differently decades ago. He chose integration. He chose consistency. He chose the kind of health that most people think is reserved for the lucky few. Subscribe to this channel if you want to continue receiving information and case studies like this. Like this video if it challenged something you believed about health. If it made you reconsider the foods you're eating or the approaches you've been taking to your health. If it gave you hope that decline isn't inevitable. Most importantly, leave a comment. Tell me what you're planning to change first. Are you going to add fermented foods to your breakfast? Are you going to switch from red meat to fish? Are you going to start cooking your vegetables properly? Are you going to commit to consistency instead of chasing novelty? Stating your intention publicly increases the likelihood that you'll follow through. This farmer's health is available to you. Not identical, you have different genetics, different environment, different resources. But the principles that created his health are absolutely available to you. The integration, the consistency, the focus on real foods, the removal of inflammatory foods, the understanding that longevity comes from comprehensive approaches rather than isolated interventions. All of this is available. What happens next is entirely up to you. You can continue as you are, accepting decline as inevitable. Or you can take the information you've received and transform it into action. You can become someone who eats for health instead of for habit. Someone who understands nutrition as a system instead of as a collection of isolated choices. Someone who is willing to do today what most people won't do so that you can live tomorrow as most people can't live. Thank you for watching this far. Time is valuable, and you chose to spend it learning about health and longevity. That choice itself signals that you're serious about your life, that you understand that how you live matters. That decline isn't inevitable. Honor that intention. Act on it. Become the version of yourself that this farmer's example inspires you to be. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, eat well,